Good evening, everyone. This is the Lewisboro Town Board meeting for Monday, April 25th. For those in the room, the exits are directly behind you and in front of you here. If you would, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so you'll all have to bear with me because I am managing the Zoom public comment. So we'll start with the first public comment. If anyone here has a comment, would like to speak.
Of course.
Robert, go ahead.
I'm Robert Whitaker from Golden's Bridge concerning, of course, the climate crisis. Carbon dioxide is the greenhouse gas causing most of the current warming because so much is being emitted into the air and it lasts for centuries. Carbon dioxide in the air is measured as parts per million. For 800,000 years before the Industrial Revolution, carbon dioxide in the air varied between lows of 180 to 200 during periodic ice ages to highs of 250 to 300 during warm periods. For at least 800,000 years until recently, the level never went above 300 parts per million. From 8,000 BC to 1850 AD, 10,000 years that enabled modern human civilization, carbon dioxide increased just 20 parts per million, from 260 to 280, with a rate of change of one every few hundred years. But with the Industrial Revolution, all of that changed. From 1850 to 1958, carbon dioxide rose from 280 to 315, almost double the increase over the previous 10,000 years in just over 100. And we were just getting started. Since 1958, carbon dioxide has risen from 315 to 420, and over the last 10 years has been increasing at a rate of 1 part per million every 5 months, compared to one every few hundred years by nature. It takes nature literally thousands of years to increase the amount of carbon dioxide as much as it has in just the last 10. The last time carbon dioxide was this high was 3.5 million years ago, with sea levels ultimately rising 80 feet as a result. That's the future without any further increase. Ice started melting and coral reefs began to die when carbon dioxide reached between 325 and 350 parts per million. For future Earth to be anything like the planet humans have known for our entire existence, climate scientists say 350 is the max, but we're already at 420 and climbing. The future of our children and grandchildren and their children and grandchildren and their children and grandchildren is truly in crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else here? Okay, so we'll go to the Zoom participants. We have Carol Cernak. I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Carol Cernak in South Salem. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'd like to, I've noticed a lot of activity at the salt dome site recently by Hickory Homes and the town. It looks like a significant amount of mulch was removed by Hickory Homes. I'm hoping you can offer an update as to the status of repairing the sight line between the South Salem Cemetery and the salt dome property, especially in the lower corner by the police station. And additionally, also looking for an update and or decision on the RFP put out by Highway for the removal of the mulch and timber and operations moving forward with town generated timber. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else on Zoom? I don't see any other hands. So motion to close public comment.
So
Discussion in favor? Aye. Okay, communications. I just have one piece of communication. This was a letter from the town of New Canaan, their wetlands department, and it's regarding It's a joint wetland application for 365 Luke's Wood Road and 1218 Smith Ridge Road in New Canaan. They are requesting permission to implement a long-term solution to minimize erosion in existing swale and prevent the runoff from overtopping the banks of the channel and diverting to the south. A portion of the property containing the proposed regulated activity is located within 500 feet of the Lewisboro town line, which is why, per state statutes, the commission is required to give us notice. We sent this over to the planning board. They wrote back basically to say that they have reviewed the letter and they have no comments on the proposed improvements to the existing swale. That's all I have for communications. Consent agenda. The motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I just had one. I mean, I noticed that the March figures, I mean, the January and February were, terrific. And
For the
March-
building department.
Yeah, and March dropped off like a stone, and I don't know if that's attributable to anything aside from, I don't know what it's attributable to.
The information I received is it's attributed, that's an indicate, that's the amounts that are deposited into the bank account. And there were deposits not made this month due to personnel absence. So we should see that bump up in April.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Old business.
The minutes.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Oh, well, that's the consent, part of the consent agenda.
we did the monthly reports, right? Did we?
Well, we did both.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're good.
So all in favor with
Yeah.
the consent agenda in general?
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
Old business, discussion on the comprehensive plan steering committee. So we reviewed this during the last, not the last work session, but the town board meeting before that. And the board was given the opportunity to go back and review the recommendations of the comprehensive plan steering committee, as well as review the proposals provided by both the entity which was selected by the steering plan, comprehensive plan steering committee, which was Nelson Pope Voorhees, as well as the other proposals. And the decision here tonight is whether or not to accept the proposal as submitted by the comprehensive plan steering committee, or is there any other feedback or discussions? It's an opportunity for the board to bring anything up that they've since learned.
I had a conversation today with Katie, the chairperson of the Master Plan Steering Committee, because I reviewed their recommendations and I tried to get through some of the responses to the RFP myself, obviously quite voluminous. And when it came down to everything, it was very, they were very close in a lot of things that they were proposing, aside from, let's say, price or what have you. So I was curious as to, how the committee came, like, what was it about on a more personal, because the report is very thorough, but it's very, as writing is, very black and white. And I wanted to know what was the couple of things that maybe pushed them in this direction. And actually what I heard was what I was hoping to hear, which was that this representative, they go by letters.
NPV, Nelson
NPV.
Pope Voorhees. Yeah.
And what Katie told me was that they were the most responsive, that they were proactive in, asking if there was anything else, anything else that was needed from them. And the best part about it is that it was very important to, I think, the community as well as the town board last year, as well as to myself, that it was taking into consideration the fact that Lewisboro is really not like other towns, and our hamlets are all very distinct and very different. And how was that going to be incorporated in? And what Katie had said to me was that they really kind of went out of their way to accommodate that with some of the other responses. They didn't feel that that was important, didn't pay enough attention to the fact that it was important to us to distinguish, and that this RFP, went above and beyond, and it really took care to make sure that there were going to be public meetings in each of the hamlets and pay attention to the needs and interests of each of the hamlets. And it was really left them with a good feeling. So I was happy to hear that. So it's going to be nice to get on. The other thing is that they explained to us that the price that's there, they're very flexible with it. So we could do more, we could do less, and really the number of meetings that they included in the price that they quoted was probably more than what was going to be needed. So that was also a plus. So I know that there was some money that was earmarked to go towards this last year, and it looks as though the estimate in their response to the RFP is almost right on point. So that was another plus.
Okay. Yeah, and just to add to that, so the project cost that we were given is $163,000. But that's to be adjusted based on the number of meetings and workshops. So we feel it's probably going to come in lower than that, probably in the $150,000 range. And they had 40 town board meetings as part of their proposal. So we're probably going to do less than that. I don't think we're going to need 40. And I also spoke to Katie about this, and then 10 steering committee meetings. So we think it'll be less than 163,000. And so I think the resolution here would be to accept the proposal, unless anyone has any other.
Well, to accept their recommendation.
Right, the
Yes,
recommendation to go forward with NPV at a not to exceed $163,000 project cost.
We earmarked this money from the last year's budget specifically.
Well, it was
From the sale of the.
earmarked. It wasn't officially designated or appropriated, but there was funds.
There were funds from
It was
the
always
sale of the community house.
anticipated
It was
that's
it,
where
right.
it would-
Yeah.
it would come
Because
from.
we were addressing as far as what money we were putting away, right? I think because how we were discussing it. Leo made the modification.
Yes. In
Right.
other words, this is not a surprise.
Yes.
No, it's not a surprise. It was from the sale of the community house where we sold it for $500,000. So the 163 will come out
Okay,
that
so,
of those proceeds.
By the way, just to, on the meetings thing, aside from, meeting with town board and town agencies, I mean, there should be general public meetings, maybe separate from that too, some of these hamlet meetings.
Yeah, actually they
Yeah.
have, sorry, I left that out. There's
Yeah.
11 public meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think those are really maybe
those
the
are
most
important
important.
ones. Right.
And see, I keep wanting to say MVP, like,
NPV.
like it's baseball.
Net present value.
Thank you. That's helpful. But no, they went out of their way to incorporate special meetings in each one of the hamlets. So
Right.
it'll be specific to that. So that was also very good to see.
Right.
I don't remember, is there a specific target completion date for this part of their work?
So that part of the total schedule is given as
I think it's in the
18 months,
I believe so.
13 to 18,
right. Project timeline,
Which is
13 to 18
pretty
months.
much in the middle of what.
And we
People were
we
saying.
talked about having the committee check in with us every quarter or so to make sure they're progressing right, I think. Quarterly updates.
Yeah, I think that's, that's a
Okay.
given that we should be pursuing, sure.
So move to,
We need to authorize
The
Tony to
supervisor,
sign.
right, so who wants to,
We would accept the proposal, Nelson Properties for preparation for the comprehensive plan and authorizing the supervisor to sign the proposal.
so moved is articulated by the town attorney.
a second?
Second,
Thank you, Mary. Discussion? All in favor?
we have to do a roll call for
Roll
this?
call? Okay.
No, do we, or we do?
That kind of expenditure.
Okay, so roll call, we'll start with Andrea.
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
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 Mary Shaw, aye.
Great, that's a milestone.
Yes.
Here we go.
But then we have to take another vote when it comes time to actually
Well,
release the funds, correct?
You're authorizing the acceptance of the proposal, so whatever budgetary authorization you need during the course of payment requisition.
So right now, the proposal has a certain number of meetings sort of up to. And I guess if we were to decide we want to go beyond that, we might need another resolution, but
Yes,
we can do anything within that, though.
Anything within that, you're authorized up to that.
right. But we have the authorization, or I have the authorization to sign their proposal before their May 1st deadline.
Well, are we
Yeah.
authorizing payment of up to 163,000, or are we authorizing payment up to the 150 that was earmarked? Because that's my understanding.
There wasn't any amount that was earmarked specifically.
Well, I actually, that's not my understanding, because I asked those questions. Is Leo here? Because I asked those
He
questions.
was here just a minute ago.
Okay,
Leo was probably,
because the steering committee had asked me to look into that and to get back to them as to what
Right.
the amount was, because they were unclear,
Right.
100%. And that was the number that was given me.
So when you say earmarks,
You remember?
are we saying that it was in the budget at this amount? Because my understanding is it's just been coming from
From the-
reserves essentially.
so Leo, the proceeds from the sale of the community house, we had agreed that some of those funds would go towards the comprehensive plan.
Right.
Was there a specific amount earmarked?
There was an amount put into the budget as a reminder that the board needed to make a decision, whether they wanted an amount appropriated in this year's budget or to allow whatever costs associated with the plan to dig into the sales of of community house, which took place the prior year and is part of the fund balance. In that reminder, through conversations with planning representatives, I was advised that to put in 150,000.
Okay,
So that was what was in the budget as the reminder, and then it was
right. Okay, so
When you were making the adjustment, that was the 150 you didn't put towards the reserve because it was to essentially,
Right.
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But in this case, we are approving up to 163. So that's okay to do
The sale of the house was what, 460,000 or so?
after the real estate commission, correct? Yeah.
So again, if we push past the 150, we just have to do a transfer from reserves. Essentially, so.
Okay.
we'll-
I just wanted that to be clear, because I was
Okay.
under the impression
No, thank you.
150 was
Yeah.
earmarked and is available, and anything over that, we were gonna have to create some other action to address.
Right, but we don't have to do that action as a board.
No,
That's financial, that's Leo.
Yeah,
moving the funds
and
around.
including whatever payment schedule is
Right.
associated with this. We'll use your best judgment on that. Right, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so,
And-
did we approve?
We
I think
took.
We did. We took a
roll call
we
vote.
did. So we're
Everybody
good.
voted in favor.
and
Okay.
I believe
Behind.
Katie said she was on if we needed her for anything, but I don't think we do.
Yeah. I think we're good, yes.
Just congratulate her.
Thank you, Katie, and congratulations.
Thank you to the steering committee for all their hard work.
Yes.
For the comprehensive committee.
Go- yes,
The
the comprehensive-
entire
The
committee.
entire committee,
The
sorry.
entire committee.
Yes. Okay, so the next item is the review of the new lease terms for the pool concession bid. So we have a proposal that we had approved from Westchester Food Service to basically run and manage the pool concession stand during the summer.
Right.
For 3
We had
years.
approved it for 3 years for the years 2022 through 2024 at annual lease fees of $8,400, $8,450, and $8,500 respectively. They have since come back, and with the cost of the food items going up, they are requesting a revision or a modification to that agreement. They agreed to have it only for 1 year agreement, but they would like to lower the lease payment to the $5,000 range.
So
from 8,500.
do we have a signed agreement? Or do we not?
We do not. We do not have
We
a signed
voted
agreement,
to
We voted
approve
to
the
approve it.
agreement that they submitted as part
Right.
of the bid process.
but we did not execute the agreement. No.
So the documentation they provided with they had a menu and whatnot, did they have prices on that?
They did,
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so in
Yeah,
other
the
words,
prices
the
in there.
prices remain the prices.
correct.
So, all right, just so they didn't have to pick it up on both ends.
Right. So.
Was part of this propane as well? Was that part of their,
So the propane is not, we have to supply
we
the
have to
propane,
supply the propane?
correct.
That was another adjustment.
Right,
Correct, in the original. proposal. I don't think it was changed.
and in the email I sent to the board, I mistakenly indicated those lease payments as monthly, but they're yearly. So
It's the
it's
season,
84, it's
basically,
the
right?
season, correct.
Decision.
So as an example, they shared with me, I spoke to them last week. Harrison is their concession stands is 7 times the size of Lewisboro's.
Yeah.
And they include refrigeration and freezers, which we do not.
Right.
And Harrison pays $5,000 a year
Season.
per season,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Because no one swims in December.
Right. Briarcliff
Amber.
also provide additional refrigeration, freezers. They're in the $3,000 per season range. So the question is will we accept the $5,000 range? I think they'll accept 5,500. And it's again 1 year. So at the end of the season, we get to early next year and this year we get to put out an RFP again. And ideally, I'd like to see local
I'm assuming
businesses.
our budget has the numbers closer to our original.
Close to the original, which
Yeah, so-
if I recall is close to what we were doing before.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure this is not the only place we're being hit with
Mhm.
inflation.
The thing that bothers me, they had a proposal for 3 years and then just basically had an oops that they didn't know how to estimate what it was going to be. So,
Maybe because ours was later.
Well, we
than
were
some of
sitting,
the other ones.
yeah, we were sitting on this for a while as well.
Well, here's the thing. We know from when this started, we don't have any other options, really.
yeah,
Right.
The company that handled the pool last year, there was tons of complaints on all different levels. So at least we know we're getting a reputable company.
Mhm.
They know what they're doing. We've used them in the past. I think that we owe it to the people who use the pool to make sure that the snack bar is open. And
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. Everybody's getting hit everywhere, so.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go for this year, but maybe we should think outside of the box for next year. I mean, we have, for example, say the farmer's market that's on Saturday, which goes to what, till 1 o'clock. Maybe if you had some kind of, option there to bring some people over,
Farmers market.
yeah, farmer's market people and as opposed to having,
Maybe we could put
Well, you can have,
advertisements out
there's
to the local delicatessens.
businesses, yeah.
right,
Exactly.
we should just so,
I think
put it out there that
I
people
know
know.
Dana tried that. She wasn't successful with it. Not that she wasn't successful, they weren't receptive. But we could certainly try that again.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it's a matter of like changing the structure so that we're providing more of the,
Refrigeration.
cutlery or even the staff or something, and and that would enable them to take this up maybe, or.
So, yes, so just this season, so, local
Yeah.
businesses have an opportunity to think about it for 2023. If they have any proposals, thinking outside the box, we want to do
Yeah.
something for our local businesses to,
In
to
the
support that.
meantime, I move that we authorize the supervisor to sign the pool concession stand lease with Westchester Food Service for a fee to the town of not less than $5,000. That gives you the
Or-
opportunity
To bump it up.
make it more.
Okay. Okay.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And 1 year.
For
For
the
1 year.
season.
For the season, yeah, for 2022. Got it. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
So the requirement that they have to be open for 7 days, right? They have to match the operation hours of the
Correct.
pool? Okay,
It wouldn't make a lot of money if they were.
I know,
Yeah.
but you know.
Okay, so next item are community and town events. So we had this discussion during our work session 2 weeks ago. And when, the outcome of that discussion was, we agreed that, we took some of the PrAC input, the Parks and Rec Advisory Council input, and we agreed that we have two events. Essentially, we have the Pride events, and then we have the Juneteenth event. Juneteenth, I think the majority, and I guess what we're going to vote on it now is to recognize it as it's a national holiday, so we're going to recognize it as a town event that should be town sponsored. And by town sponsored, meaning we waive the fees for use of the town park. I think that's where it's going to be, the town park, and also provide insurance, so they don't have the expense of pursuing the certificate of insurance. So those are the two items that we would be providing to the event.
And that's for June 18th, I think it is, right?
That
That is
is
correct.
Saturday,
Yeah, I have
the
it.
Saturday, not the.
But they're doing it on Saturday, not Sunday, because Sunday's
Father's
Father's Day.
Yeah.
correct.
But I was hoping for some more clarification from Mary because she unfortunately wasn't here during the work session and
mhm.
things got a little cloudy and we never, obviously we didn't vote at the work session on this as to, what. I mean, I think the discussion on the community and town events, we've got to determine what our policy is going to be moving forward, not only with Juneteenth, but other community
Any other
events
events. Mhm.
and the distinction between these community events that Juneteenth and Pride versus other community events, because we have many of them and they are increasing in number. And we saw that last summer, and that's wonderful.
Well, for Juneteenth, we already voted, I think, on the application to waive the fees for that. That's already been done. I
Correct,
think.
right.
Right.
So I think what we need to vote on is the providing the town insurance rather than they going out and getting their own certificate of insurance.
But we also have to, they submitted a budget to us and they were requesting that the town cover the budget.
Mhm.
And they've been asking for us to respond.
Yeah,
Right, Mary's gonna fill us in.
I've spoken with the people who are organizing Juneteenth. I'm sorry I wasn't here. I was under the weather and recuperating still. They realize that they cannot have the full amount covered by the town. I've explained to them that we're facing a lot of issues of inflation, and they are reaching out to members of the public and the community to make donations. And even my husband and I are going to be making a donation to help sponsor the event so people can make donations. So it won't be all covered. It won't be covered by the town. We're all going to be working together to make sure that the costs are covered, but the town is not going to pay for the whole budget.
Well, that is good. I know we had a very lengthy discussion yesterday on what the town can and cannot afford when it comes to town-sponsored events and town-supported events. And everyone just saw we now have lost money on the concession for the summer by $3,000. That was revenue that the town was anticipating to cover, we kind of incorporated that into our thinking. So now we've lost an additional $3,000. So when we're looking at these events, I think that we have to be creative in how it is that we financially support these types of events. And by
Exactly.
waiving the fees and covering the insurance, in my opinion, that's a big contribution to help support an event that we don't do in every case. And past that, I don't know, I wouldn't be in favor of starting to write checks to events. The town's not a,
I know the
bank.
town is
yeah.
not bankable in could you put your hand down, please? So I can
Thanks.
make visual contact. Thank you. I don't think anybody's expecting the town to bankroll the whole amount. And it would be unreasonable. However, we have an obligation as a town to create a sense of community. And last year we contributed $1,000 towards Pride in the Park. And it was a great event. And it was something that brought people not only from Lewisboro here, but from outside of the community and showed what a warm and welcoming place we are. And I think that I would like to continue with that idea. We've got Pride and we've got Juneteenth, and we didn't contribute anything last year to Juneteenth, but it was a huge success. And we had people from all over the county and outside of the county come. And this is the kind of Lewisboro that I would like to support, to let them know we are Lewisboro and everybody is welcome. And we do have a certain amount of money earmarked for community events, and some of it has already been allocated for certain events like the newcomer meetings, but there's still a certain amount of money that we have where we wouldn't be fiscally irresponsible to create that welcoming community to pay $1,000 for Juneteenth and $1,000 for Pride, as far as making Lewisboro a welcoming place, and then we might even have a little money left over, and I'd be more than welcome to help raise money for other events as well. Because where I grew up in the middle of Michigan, we had every year a festival of the forks where we celebrated everyone's heritage together. And I think it's a really important thing to focus on what we can do together rather than people as individual little fiefdoms or I'm not sure, rather than individual tribes. I think we're a stronger Lewisboro if we make sure that we know that we're all together.
Well, I think the celebrations line doesn't have a great deal of money in it, but
I'm
it's
aware of that.
used, at least in my experience, what I've seen that the money is used on is events that come up sometimes sporadically, or as Dana had used, like she did the Easter Bunny thing, so the money was there to do something like that, to come up with events sporadically throughout the year, depending on the circumstance. And COVID was a big circumstance, so she was able to throw together some events. So it's not that it's an emergency line, but it's one of those go-to lines that throughout the year, certain amount of money can be allocated to things as they come up. Last year, Juneteenth was put together by very generous and very motivated residents. It was not a town event. It wasn't something that the Parks and Rec threw or anything. It was something that was started by very dedicated residents, and it had a great deal of support. It is not, there's no organized committee from the town. There's no, it's an event that's being put together, organized and thrown by residents. We're saying that it's town supported, but we haven't, there were recommendations made by PrAC as to, how we should handle those, but we haven't, as a board, had an opportunity to discuss or determine what those things are going to be,
Mm.
because this group of residents, may qualify for certain reasons, but then how are we going to address future events down the line?
The
Yeah.
Parks and Rec did make the
They-
recommendation in the last meeting that I attended.
Yes,
And they talked about the difference between a community event and a town event. And one of the big differences is alcohol and fundraising. And the fact that Juneteenth is not going to be having any alcohol, and they're not doing any fundraising. The only monies that they raise go into making the event happen. So it's like accepting donations.
Well-
So if it would be more palatable for you, we could create an ad hoc committee for Juneteenth celebration or community celebrations, and invite people to come and attend to help organize these events. I've already said that I would be the point person for Juneteenth, and I expect to work with the Pride people as well.
Well, I understand all that, but there was a lot in that email that you sent to us about what qualifies and how it was going to be handled. But here's the thing.
And those are
Once you
just
open up the door,
recommendations.
right, those are only
We don't need-
recommendations.
yeah.
There aren't anything that we voted on. But once you open the door, it has nothing to do with what the event is about. I'm talking about from a purely administrative standpoint, right? So. What was that? Okay. Okay. So,
Thank you for asking. I was curious as well.
okay. Once you set a precedent, then there will be groups of citizens, residents, organizations, what have you, that we can't anticipate coming forward in the future that are going to say, well, we are just like this. And they are going to say, well, you did it in this case, and we're the same because of this reason and this reason and this reason. And unless we have something in place, then when do we draw the line as to when we say no? And so that's just my point, is that we need a guideline in place so that we can distinguish when, because we don't have money. The town doesn't have money to do this. And so I understand celebrations line. I understand, but we don't have $5,000 for an event. And I know you said they're not looking for the full amount of their budget or anything like that. All I'm saying is not that we shouldn't do Juneteenth, not that we shouldn't necessarily give a contribution, none of that. I'm saying before we move ahead, we need to have guidelines in place that we follow in the future, past Juneteenth.
Right.
And we have to do it now in anticipation of that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And what Parks and Rec Advisory Council recommended is that there be next year an open application period where community groups can apply, and then that we set up the guidelines by which we would measure the application, like a measuring stick, so to speak, that a teacher would do as far as grading the application. I can't remember the word.
Some kind of, yeah.
Rubric, that's it.
Yeah.
And then we would only have so much money for that fiscal year. And then allot $800 each group.
But then we put
Yes.
ourselves in the position
And then,
of, if there's multiple applicants, having to tell one group, sorry, you don't get the money, but this other group is getting the money.
yeah,
And then
That's-
we
that-
are deciding
Can
who's,
can-
it just.
Can some rest of us just at least have a few comments here? I'm totally in favor of $1,000 for each of these events. I think it's very modest. I appreciate the fact that, we should put together some standards for this. And maybe the standard is, as the thing becomes a town event, then, it qualifies, and we'll come up with that. But for the time being, this is extremely modest. It amounts to about 25 cents a household or less. So, I don't, I mean, you shouldn't be flippant about that, but it's not like a serious earth-shaking decision.
Yeah, I mean,
I just want to say, there'll be other groups they'll come up, but these two particular ones are very special in terms of our obligations because of the history behind it, because it was systemic, I mean, Juneteenth, what needs to be said, there's really no group in the United States that faced, the same systematic oppression and, bombings of towns and public lynchings and you name it. And I think we need to be able to face that up. And this is like such a tiny little effort to do that. So for me anyway, I'd say $1,000 for each of these events. Let's move forward.
I have a question. So I know we're in a transition year with this. What for the Veterans Day, program that we had, was there any town contribution for that?
There is. So we hang banners for the veterans. There isn't an event that they hold out aside from the Veterans Day events here in front of the townhouse, but there is the banners that are put up at the 3 shopping centers by our town maintenance people.
But there was no contribution by the town for the event or budget, right?
That's correct. And initially, they had come to us requesting a flagpole. We actually had a flagpole at the community house, and that was offered to them. And we were looking at the idea of moving that flagpole to here. But because of the work that entailed in doing that, it was decided that it was easy to just purchase one. And at that point, there were enough people willing to volunteer to purchase the new one. But the town did offer the old flagpole that was at the community house, and it's still there.
But there was no outlay of money for the town's observance of Veterans Day, right?
Aside from the purchasing of wreaths, which comes out of the town clerk's budget, there's wreaths that are laid at the front of the townhouse, and flags and things like that.
And what about Memorial Day?
Memorial Day, the same thing. It's the wreaths and flags, and then we have a parade.
So,
But there is no community get together in terms of like at a park. It's the parade and it's the ceremony in front of the town.
right, we don't have an event per se.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
So.
Could there be an event? I don't see why not. Yeah.
Okay, see,
Yeah.
here's the thing. I would love to have tons of events. I would love to have tons of events, but we have to look at things practically. We have a budget. The budget includes maintenance of things that we already have. We have very little to go above that. It's just like all of us in looking at our house. I said this the other day in running of our house, right? We all sit around during COVID and we all started to see different things wrong with our homes. We saw cracks in the ceiling and a leaky roof and things that we don't notice typically because we're so busy coming and going during the course of our day. But then suddenly we realize, wow, my house needs all this repair. And what do? You look at it and you say, you make a list and you prioritize and you see, okay, this project's going to cost this, this, and that. And while you're figuring out what you need to spend money on to maintain the house in a good, safe condition, you also have to remember you have to pump the septic and you have to clean the water filter and you've got to put the oil in the oil tank. And those expenses don't go away and they don't change. But when you realize that you have all these expenses where you're barely bringing in enough income to cover what you already have, you're not planning a vacation. You're not planning a party. You don't do that because that's not fiscally responsible. You can want it. It could be the desire. It could be a really good idea. It could be, wonderful. But if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. And now we just lost $3,000 from one thing, and we're spending $2,000 that we don't have allocated from
We
anywhere.
actually didn't lose it because it wasn't budgeted for.
It doesn't matter. We were expecting to get an additional $3,000 from this concession, which we are not getting. And like, I keep asking,
Oh, because that's what I asked you. I thought we
In the
budgeted
pri-
the
I
8,000.
don't
Sorry.
think for this specifically, but that's a Leo question, but I
and
think it was, yeah.
there are lots of good, I keep asking questions about finances because we have to come up with ways to move money around to cover things that we really want to have versus things that maybe we don't use enough or we don't need anymore. And, you know, for example, we were talking about the DAPC, which is a wonderful organization that offers wonderful programming. And this town spent $7,500 a year the past 2 years for programming that we never saw. And we're never going to see that $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 again. It's money that's
Yeah, but just to
gone.
clarify, it wasn't programs that we never saw. There were programs there, but they were not in Lewisboro. It's a 3-municipality consortium.
Correct. The
So it's-
residents
yeah,
of
so that's not a good
Lewisboro
comparison.
didn't see the benefit of our $7,500 contribution. And I'm not saying
It
that
was-
we
it was
should
like
get rid of
65,
the DAPC. That's not what I'm saying, because it's a very
Yeah.
worthwhile organization with worthwhile programming. What I'm saying is the $7,500 out the window and
So,
you know, we could have reallocated that somewhere else, but now we know because we asked the questions a few meetings ago, and now we know how to fix that problem and how to take advantage and make use of it. But that's $13,000 out the window. And so I asked these questions because we have to figure out ways to afford the things that we want, but still maintain everything else that we have to keep up.
all right, so as to Juneteenth, which is the topic on the table, so
Yes.
we've had an application and we've waived the fees associated with that. That's already been done.
Right.
And and it's going to be a town event, and as Prac has kind of defined it.
We need to vote on that.
Do we need to vote on it? Okay, so we've also, so I want to know what's on the table. We talked about that. So it's coming under the town's insurance. There's not a need for any additional insurance. Is that part of what we have to vote for?
Correct.
Now?
Yes.
Okay. So is there anything else we're voting on aside from
Well,
that?
also, it's a town event, so then we need to also have town employees there. I would assume the police need to be there, as they do with all large events.
They do that with all large events, even the private ones.
Right.
That's just their
No,
own
they-
resources.
Private
They
being
were
the
at the
501c.
John Jay Lacrosse fundraiser
Yes,
on Saturday.
yes.
So-
And
Yeah.
what else?
But I wouldn't
But
count
that's
that
not,
in.
that's
What
not,
else is
that's not an
covered?
allocation, the same way the library fair. the
Or
town
will there
makes
be
arrangements.
town employees from Parks and Recreation there?
No. Not at the event. There weren't any last year, what I recall. I mean, there's.
But it
it's-
wasn't a town event last year. It wasn't a
Right,
town
so-
sponsored event. It was a private citizen
Right.
run event.
So we could, so the town employees, the extent of their work is to pick up, clean out the garbage cans, right? Yeah, which,
So as we have contemplated, we have a town liaison to this Juneteenth event, which is going to be Mary, I understand. She's going to coordinate with the organizers, and also the issue of having it be under the town's insurance, right? Those are the
Right.
two things we have worked out. Is there anything else? So I'm fine with those things. Is there anything else that's on the table aside from that?
I'll be there as a town employee as well. And it's not beneath me to clean up garbage. I've been known to do that, hand out
Yep.
water.
And
I'll do whatever I need to
I
make
would
this
like to
event
suggest
happen.
that we offer this budget of up to $1,000. And, you know, I just think
So the
like
other-
half
yeah.
of the country is out there banning books that mention the word lesbian, or, let's make a statement here. Let's be clear about what we support.
There's
It's not,
a
it's a
there's
very
a
minor thing.
difference-
You don't have to go over the whole
No,
economics and budgeting thing. I
okay,
understand all
but
that.
Dan, there's a
it.
difference between trying to promote and have a successful event and giving an event money for the sake of giving money. They're raising funds. This event could be easily covered by the donations of the residents in
You're
town.
missing the point.
Because I'm not missing. the
Well,
point.
you're on your point, but you missed my point. It's not giving money for the sake of giving money. It's giving money to really make the statement that we are supporting this, going the extra mile for this.
But we
These
are,
two
we're
events-
waiving fees and we're paying for covering it with our insurance. That is a significant financial contribution to an event. If somebody falls and gets hurt, the town is now on the hook. We're absolving the residents who are running the event from any liability if anything happens. That's a major financial contribution on the part of the town.
we're
I
waiving
think the town will
fees.
be on the hook regardless, even if
Yeah,
they get
so
their own
are we
insurance.
actually paying extra money for that? I kind
No.
of doubt it. Right, so.
I think that in and of itself speaks volumes, what we're contributing
All right.
and promoting and saying that we support this event.
So yeah, we have
I think-
two positions on this. Take it where you.
So part of it is, we didn't budget in the 2022 budget for this, neither for Pride nor Juneteenth. When researching this a bit more with Dana, she mentioned there's a community enrichment line, which had $4,000 at the start of the year. And she's tapped into that for the New Neighbor Network events, as well as the July 4th pool event, which was just a last minute community event we decided to pull together. And that came out of that line.
To me, that's prac programming. That's straight line prac programming
Yes.
that's been going on forever. Well, not
Right,
July
but if you
4th,
look at
but-
their program guide for this year, they have Pride listed in there. So it's Pride programming,
well,
right?
That's
It isn't unless they're running the event.
Well, it is. It's identified in the,
They may
In the
identify
brochure.
and promote it, but they're
Yeah.
not running it. So it's not a prac event. It's not a town of Lewisboro Department of Recreation event.
All right, so let's put something on
Yeah.
the table here.
Well, also, Mary, where are we donating money to? Who are we writing these checks to? Who are we doing?
Well, in it being a town-sponsored event, people can contribute to the town of Lewisboro and
I think you're
have
talking
it
about. are you talking
earmarked for.
contributions?
Juneteenth, she
or-
said that she's writing a check and they're raising money.
And bring it into the town coffers and have it earmarked specifically for Juneteenth.
So in other words, I can't write a personal check to put money towards the Juneteenth celebration,
You can,
but I have to write it to the town?
yes. In it being a town-sponsored event.
I like to consult with Greg on that. Can a
Can a make a
Person-
donation to the town of Lewisboro and have it
Specific use.
earmarked for Juneteenth?
But the whole thing is not being run by the town. How can you give money to the town if it's not a town-run event like 4th of July?
I'm answering that based upon the fact that I think there's a motion on the floor in a second that it become a town event, that the town cover the insurance, waive the fee, and authorize a budget out of the town's proceeds up to a certain amount. With that authorization, if it passes, then the town can certainly collect money from the citizens to put towards it. Anybody can donate.
And maybe-
to the town recognizes donation for police vests, for beautification, for whatever.
Right,
Okay.
right.
That presupposes that something is going to pass here. It's been
Right.
roundtable. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So do we
So-
want to do
so
the
for
first
example-
two first? Since the
Well,
budget item is.
So let me just ask Greg a question. So if they have an item, let's say a tent rental, right? But they want the town to purchase that rental. We get the tax break, it's ordered by the town. That would be an item that could then be paid for by a donation or,
The donations for whatever the particular event are going in the line for that event.
right, okay,
And you're going to pay for whatever.
right,
The services or the goods that are related to the.
Right.
That event from.
right,
If there's a surplus, then you deal with it.
right. Or you could have it split so that they're raising their own funds and paying for their own
100%.
whatever they want to buy, music, whatever, food trucks. And also have, for example, a tent rental that the town, because it's going to be mounted on town property, the town would acquire.
Town accepts donations, I believe, all the time.
Okay,
For certain
Yeah.
purposes, and
Right, they have to be specific.
right. I'm just thinking of a split, right, where there's, a portion
It's,
that's
the mechanics
in a
are
budget
fine.
line and there's,
The
Yeah.
mechanics are
Well,
fine.
well, here's the thing. Well, here's the
Mhm.
thing. Now Tony's talking about the rental of the tent. And this is a discussion that we were also having yesterday with regard to the next event that's on there. Town has to start looking, we got to figure out a way to make things like this work and think outside the box as far as financing goes, because our financing in town is very limited. And I won't repeat myself again, Dan, on that issue. I think I made myself clear. But now we're talking about a tent rental. And a tent rental is another, depending on the size of the tent, it could be a few hundred, it could be up to 1,000, right? So even with the discount or what have you. So that's another financial contribution that the town would be willing to make for a particular town-sponsored event, whereas writing a check for a budget that we have no say over is very different. You know, if people want to write a check, let's say, for example, to the fireworks, they know what it's going to. It's a town-run event. They know where the money's going to, because the town decides the budget and decides what the money's going to be spent on. Now we're talking about taking money in for an event that the town doesn't determine what the money's being spent on. We don't know how much money for whatever, you know, what they determine, you know, in their budget, they were talking about music, they were talking about certain food, they were talking about, okay, but
Well, that's why I'm saying maybe you give them the liberty to buy whatever they want as long as they're using their own fundraised funds, right? And then we can say, okay, if there's, you know, an item that's like a tent that the order can be placed directly by the town.
Let's go back to what Dan was saying. We got the first part that we have as far as a motion for this to be a town event with the town liaison and waiving the insurance, right? That's the
Yes,
first
let's vote on
motion.
that, yeah.
I move on for that motion.
And we're only talking Juneteenth at this.
Correct, yes,
Correct.
that's right.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
no. I think we're setting a bad precedent.
Okay, so should we finish off Juneteenth first? And I would then like to move that as a town event that the town allocate a budget of up to $1,000 to make available to defray expenses associated with the Juneteenth event to be, coordinated and overseen by our representative, Mary.
Subject to what?
Subject to law. Yeah.
And could we add a line that donations be accepted from the public?
Yeah, but that doesn't have to be part of this.
Okay.
I mean, that's happens
From
anyway.
your budget.
Yeah.
From your budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's-
Yeah, let's just keep it clean. So
So the motion is to approve a budget of $1,000 for Juneteenth.
Yes,
Discussion,
nobody second yet.
Second.
Second, there you go.
Discussion?
discussion. Part of the recommendations of PrAC that came in coordination with that was that any monies that were given to town events such as these would be, Tony had said, as a loan.
Right, but and
You had brought that up.
yeah,
That
so
was
I didn't
for
say that, I
community
didn't use the word loan. I think you used the word loan, that we should be a bank.
No, you
But I
had said that if we allocate funds to an event, that then if they raise
If it-
more
yeah, it
or
says here in-
whatever, that the town would be paid back
Would be
the
repaid.
funds
If
that we
it's
contribute.
seed money, that is in the notes that Mary shared with us. This is the recommendation for PrAC. The town can provide funding or grants, but it is recommended that if it is seed money, that it be repaid. If it is seed money,
If it is seed money.
meaning money to kick off,
Right,
give them a budget to
Community,
work with.
but that was, I was under the impression that that's for community events.
For community
Not-
events,
not
correct. Yes, that was for
town-sponsored.
community events. You're right.
but
Clarification.
my view is that the way, I just want to second what Mary was talking about, how Juneteenth the goal of Juneteenth and celebration, the goal of Pride Month and Pride events, how it should be a broad-based community celebration where the entire community participates. And I think the most effective way to make that happen, as it has been in other things in town, is by reaching out to the entire community for money. I gave money to Pride out of my own pocket because I wanted to. And all the things that have become events which transcend our town and our community gets involved in is because there's a reach out to the community for money. And this is a very generous community and a community that reaches out. And in looking at Juneteenth, there's no opportunity, I've seen postings for the event, but there's no opportunity for me to write a check if I want to give money.
There is now.
Okay, well, it hasn't been in my looking at it. And
Yeah,
the same,
no, but we
and-
were waiting
no,
for
and-
this event.
and with Pride last year, I wanted to give money and there was no opportunity to write a check. If you want to write a check, here's where you write a check, or here's who you give money to. I gave money to, for the event because I wanted to. I participated in the event. I was there for the event. I gave money to the event. I think the goal here is that, like I said, I guess I'm kind of repeating myself, the way to get broad support for these events, which should be important parts of our community calendar each and every year, is to reach out to the entire community. And I believe that this community will respond in a very big way. And that's where you make it an integral part of our calendar and our community, no different than any other event that's been celebrated for years up to now. It should be just as important and just as significant as any other celebration. And by reaching out to the community, I think that's the way you make it happen.
And I think you can still do that and make this extra statement. I do believe that these two events are particularly special meaning or a really different relationship to us.
They are tremendously important. And I agree with everything you said. The problem is making a value judgment and picking one over another. So all the other ones you're making a value judgment over other ones who are just other celebrations, other events, which are arguably to the people they are important to just as important and equally deserving of town financial support. So.
Okay, so the motion is on the table. Is there any second for it?
I thought I seconded.
You seconded it already.
She
Right,
seconded.
we had discussion and everything. All right. Call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
No, for the same reason that I voted last year, same position. I want to give money personally, and I want to contribute personally to the Juneteenth celebration. Someone tell me to write a check, I will write one.
I think it's a slippery slope. It's a holiday. It's a national holiday. I totally appreciate and respect that, but I can.
And that's the reason I think.
And I see what's coming, whether it's meant to or not. I can anticipate the next meeting, someone coming in and wanting to have an official Labor Day event. Somebody's going to come in and want to have an
They could.
official
I mean, if
Columbus
there's no
Day
stopping
event.
them, they can certainly apply
And
for it. And
correct,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we've
And if
set
they
the
can pull it-
precedent
Yeah.
to give them each $1,000 and to make it a town event.
The
And
precedent was
that's the
set last year.
problem.
Yeah. The precedent
That's-
was set last year.
It wasn't, because we did not have Juneteenth as a town-sponsored holiday event last year.
Mhm. Yeah, so specific to Juneteenth, you're correct, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
So-
okay, so we just did that with
Juneteenth.
Pride in the
Pride in the
Park.
Park, including their Pride Dance Party, yeah.
My position is the same. But that's fine.
Well, we
Have we
have
already-
representatives here.
So-
To check to the town of Lewisboro.
Do we-
We already made this one, this is already a town event.
No,
And
it's
this
not a town
was
event,
tax
it's just like,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
the idea was to make it a community event, but we can discuss that here.
Do you want to do that first?
So the task force is here, should we let them speak? Yeah, go ahead.
Great.
So good evening, my name is Mikhail Pignatello, I'm a resident of Walkabout. So we have to change this town seal pretty soon. But I'm here with my co-organizer, Rachel Simon. And we're here on behalf of the Lewisboro LGBTQIA+ task force that this board put into place last year.
Makeup before you, can they hear on Zoom? All right,
Good question. Oh, it's got a mic.
is the mic
Sean,
working?
Sean, you can hear, right?
I can
Okay.
hear.
Okay.
I talk really loud. So we thank the board for the opportunity to discuss this year's plans for Pride in the Park and our family Pride dance events. We're very excited to build on last year's major success. In fact, for most of the folks here on the board, we don't even have to go into how great the event was because you were there and you were often on the main stage even at one point or another. But before I talk and turn to our plans this year, my co-organizer Rachel will quickly recap last year's events and why they are important. Rachel.
So, hi, I'm Rachel. I use she and they pronouns. And We had such a great event last year with over 300 people in attendance, and have about a dozen people working now on the planning committee. Some of the highlights last year in the driveway right here when we were handing out the signs, the lawn signs, a resident came up and said, "I'm here because my daughter who lives in Paris called me this morning and said, you've got to go pick up a sign." And she was so excited to have queer representation in Lewisboro, even though she has, flown to live in Paris. At another town event, when I was wearing my Lewisboro Pride t-shirt, the parent of a new resident who is the parent of a transgender elementary school student came up to me and said, "We're so glad that you're here. We're so glad that you're planning these events." And something in the previous discussion about the importance of events like Juneteenth and Pride is that while it is fun and everyone loves a drag queen, it's really suicide prevention work that we're doing. One LGBTQ youth attempts suicide in this country every 45 seconds. 42% of LGBTQ youth seriously have considered suicide in the past year. And these are pre-pandemic stats. They're like 2020. And from, if you read Sunday's front page New York Times cover story about the mental health of teenagers right now, I imagine that number is even higher. I got a call today. I'm on the Westchester County LGBTQ Advisory Board, and got a call today from a high school English teacher from outside of Lewisboro, but inside Westchester, trying to advocate for her students as folks are really well organized in banning books, removing LGBTQ content from health curriculum. This teacher had parents reject GLSEN's annual Day of Silence recently, and worked to take Toni Morrison, Audre Lorde, and Sandra Cisneros out of the curriculum. So these are things, right, Mary? So it's important work, it's having an impact, and we thank you for supporting it through the last year's resolution and the creation of our task force.
So back to, well, a quick jaunt back to last year. As a reminder of how this task force began, this town board unanimously passed the resolution designated and declaring June as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month in the town of Lewisboro. I won't read all of it, but the resolution first discussed the importance of pride. Quote, "The town board wishes to foster a spirit and atmosphere within the Lewisboro community that embraces the LGBTQIA+ community's celebration of diversity and acceptance of all gender identities. The town board is determined that it is vital that Lewisboro's LGBTQIA+ residents feel that their rights are equal and protected in their hometown community. Organized LGBTQIA+ Pride events are a proactive step the town can take to assist in the creation and improvement of such diversity and acceptance among its residents within the community." And I'll skip ahead to the two conclusions and actions of the resolution. One, the town board of the town of Lewisboro hereby designates the month of June as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month, even we stumble over those letters sometimes. And the town board hereby authorizes the formation of a task force for the purposes of coordinating community events in Lewisboro in honor, recognition, and celebration of the LGBTQIA+ community, as well as advising the town board as to the scheduling and conducting of such events. And so here we are. This year, the task force is planning two events. The main event, if you will, is Pride in the Park, with a similar structure and schedule as last year's event. This is planned for June 26th. And in addition, we have a related event a few weeks before on June 11th to welcome India's first openly gay prince, along with an Indian dance instructor who will lead participants in a family-oriented and celebratory flag dance, among other things. We request, and in our capacity as the task force appointed by this or set up by this board, we recommend, one, the designation of a town board liaison to the LGBTQIA+ task force for this year and approval for these two events as town events and all that come with that. Two, $1,000 funding to pay for tables as we did last year for the same purpose. Three, the town again hang the banners it purchased last year at the Cross River Shopping Center. And 4, that the town again fly the pride flag at the pride flag at the townhouse for the month of June. Also, we note that after the submission of our documents to the Department of Parks and Rec and then to the town board, the PRAC made recommendations about town events. We did not have visibility into those rules, and we submitted our paperwork in advance of that meeting, but we are happy to discuss any amendments to our applications that would ensure that the events are indeed town events, as we feel last year's resolution provides for. Thank you again, and we're happy to take any questions from the board.
How did the, thank you for your presentation. How did the people in the task force get selected?
I mean, it was the people who accepted the resolution, you know, was it a proclamation, resolution last year?
Proclamation, I think it was.
Right, so we have
not turned anyone away. Anyone who has wanted to be in the part of the task force is a part of the task force so far.
Right. But we used the spreadsheet of last year's volunteers. I sent an email saying who wants to join.
So open.
Okay, so I have a couple things. One, we created a task force. So typically with advisory committees, I mean, I don't know if there's a distinction between task force and committees, but of all the committees, including the master plan steering committee that we created, all those
I don't
committees.
think that was on our list.
Sorry?
Was it on our list? The
What was-
task force?
Yeah, my point is that this town board votes on who are members of all those committees. I want to know if there's a distinction between whether we need to approve or whether it's they run it themselves. Like, I don't know what the distinction is between task force and committee. And if we have to do that, then obviously I would just obviously make a motion to accept the committee as it's created right now because they're working so well. But then moving forward, it would then be the town boards, depending. I don't know if there's a distinction. So first we have to figure out if there's a distinction or not. And if there's no distinction, then, you know, moving forward, it would be the town board's job to make sure that, you know, determine if we want to have a maximum number or not, that we appoint them, et cetera. It's just like we do with every other committee. That's 1. 2, this resolution, I wasn't on the town board when it was passed. It's passed. It was resolved. The town board created this task force, and this town board before me gave them the job to have these events. So, you know, it makes my job, you know, as a town board person and also looking at it from an attorney perspective, easy. It's already been resolved. We've given them a job to do. So we have to allow them to do a job. So for me, this is a bit more of a distinction between what they're doing and what we were discussing before. Here it is in black and white. You know, we had a very good conversation yesterday, and you told me a story that really touched my heart about pride and what it meant to you and your experience. So, you know, these events are important, but again, it's how you approach them from an administrative point of view. And we discussed, you know, we need to think outside the box on how to best fund these events when the town has very little money to spare. And we talked at length yesterday about the waiving of the fees. And we were going to have a discussion with our town attorney about the
The
insurance.
insurance versus the alcohol.
Correct, and in this particular case. And we were talking about a tent and how the town can, aside from writing a check to a budget that we have no, you know, it's not like Department of Parks and Recreation has a budget for it. What else can we do to help financially support so that they don't have to expend certain monies that they would have to expend other ways? We talked about the fact that Bedford's on the billing,
flyer.
right? And then we got other towns on the flyer, and we, you know, if not this year, will they, you know, contribute in futures? That would help fund it. Like, we need to think outside the box. These people have been given a job to do. They weren't asked to do this by reaching into their own pockets and to do it. We discussed the idea of, like Mary was suggesting, you know, with Juneteenth, which again, you don't have this.
Well, there was a proclamation.
A
for
proclamation
Juneteenth.
is not a resolution. They're 2 different things. And this was like, I'm sorry. This was a resolution. I have it in front of me. I lost my train of thought there, but, you know, we can't just keep writing checks, but it's not about, it shouldn't be about, well, we give this 1,000, that 1,000. It's about creating a successful event. It's about how do we help the event be successful as a town? And, you know, what can we contribute aside from writing a check that has financial value in order to support the event? So that was the other things that we came up with yesterday that the town can do. Right? I mean, that's.
So,
what we-
yeah, just getting back to Mikhail, I don't know if you can, I was actually going to reach out to the supervisors for Pound Ridge and Bedford, but I didn't get a chance to do that, sorry. Did you find out anything in terms of what their
So we're in
contribution is to
the process
event?
of figuring out how, you know, we'll pay for the event. I'll tell you the event, and there's two events. They're sizable. I mean, the request we're putting forward right now is, I think, I'm an attorney also, so I'm terrible at math, but I think it's like 3 or 4% of the budget. I mean, it's an extremely small amount of the budget, and
When you say 3 or 4% of the budget of
these events. I mean, this year's events are expensive. There are a lot of it's a big event with a lot of people and a lot of entertainment to pay for, et cetera. And so none of this is for sure yet, but we have requested a grant. We are looking at fundraising options. We are looking at liaising with other towns and other organizations in other towns. We are going to figure out how to get it done. But right now, you know, to be honest, we've kind of been, and no one's fault, but we've been at a standstill waiting to even know, is Pride going to happen?
Yeah.
So here we are, you know,
Right.
waiting for the next step.
Have you approached the Bedford and Pound Ridge as
So,
well?
yeah,
Good.
so I'm working with the IDEA committees, the DEI committees in Bedford and Pound Ridge.
Mhm.
And so they are, you know, we're planning different events. There's going to be a Pound Ridge color run. There's a film screening at the Bedford Playhouse on June 10th that are kind of their primary organizing responsibilities. And there will, as soon as I get 5 minutes, calendar for the month that has these events. There's going to be something at a church that I remember, it's Saint somebody, but not fixed who. But so there's a policy event about 4 pieces of legislation in the New York that are currently in the New York State Legislature. So there's a large calendar of events. We are working collaboratively, and but there isn't. My current understanding is that there's no funding yet from Pound Ridge or Bedford as a town. I don't know if their committees have any funds, but that's my understanding.
Yeah.
But we're
May I-
working on it.
Yeah.
I mean, we are working on it.
May I ask, you have arranged for Pride in the Park to be after the fireworks, so
Right.
you can take advantage of the stage
Stage,
that's
right.
already there.
Yes, we spoke
So
with
that's
Dana about
one
that.
thing that you don't have to pay for. There will be the bathrooms, the portable bathrooms that are left over, I think, from the 4th of July or the firework events. So that's something else that you don't have to pay for. So you've been trying to make smart planning
Could
for
you,
this event.
you ticked off a few asks. Can you go over that again,
Yes.
please? I think you had 4 things. I think.
4, exactly.
Yeah.
One, I'll do it in shorthand. One is that there's a town board liaison appointed to the task force, and that these events are official town events and all that comes with that. 2 is $1,000 funding, which we would allocate to pay for tables. 3 is that the town again hang the banners it already has purchased from last year at the Crossover Shopping Center. And 4 is that the town again, as they did last year, fly the pride flag at the townhouse for the month of June.
So the question about where to write the check, what happened last year is that $1,000 allocation from the town went to the table and chair rental company that Dana told us is the one that they use regularly.
Right, and just to clear up any discrepancy about that $1,000, was the full $1,000 used for the table?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Can I just follow the same print? So maybe break it into 2 then. So a motion to adopt the 1, 3, and 4, the town board liaison for the events. Flying the banners as articulated, and the pride flag, I guess it's the townhouse, right, we were talking about for the
Yes.
month of June, right?
Yes.
Move on.
Is it for the entire month of June?
Whatever you did last year, I think it was the full month.
Yeah,
Oh.
and that's the federally
Is that-
recognized.
okay,
We
right.
just have
Just
to.
And the town
watch
recognized
what
one.
poll it goes on, like we
Right.
did with the Ukrainian flag.
Yeah,
So
we
did
had it
you
in
do
the years,
town
but we-
event
yeah,
thing,
we
and
had it.
insurance thing, like, declare.
Yeah, that's part of our ask of them being town events.
So
You wanna
that's,
include
so let me ask
Okay.
council about that. So if they're serving alcohol, which,
We're open
may or may
to
not
not
happen,
if that's
but if you're
required.
doing beer, wine, and it's under our insurance,
You need to make sure that you have the vendors that has the marketing permit for whatever the day, the period.
ABC fan.
Right, and we have grant coverage for us.
right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe we
Open
can,
question.
put a little bit of parameters on there, if there's going to be alcohol, that maybe, that it be like a contain, like the beer tent at the library
library
fair,
fair,
so that.
But you had to get an AB, I think you
Yeah, we're
had to get an
open.
ABC permit for that.
Usually
So,
those
okay.
permits will have a contain an area where the.
All right, so it sounds,
Okay.
sounds like we had, all right, so then with Dan's input, so appointing a town board liaison
Do we want
to
to
the,
pick?
to the task force. Mary, okay.
No,
What,
no.
what,
I-
did you, I'm sorry.
She just volunteered.
I'm taking off my mask, so I'm clearly understood. Are we picking a name?
No, we didn't discuss it yet.
Okay,
We can, or, we can do that now or not. It could be part of this resolution or not, if you want, but.
Okay, well, then motion for a town board liaison to be determined for the task
To
force.
be determined.
Waiving the insurance as we had with Juneteenth, so that's plank one. Flying the banners in the shopping centers, I think, right? Is that what we're
Correct.
talking
Right,
about?
like we did
As
last
was
year.
done in June of 20,
And those banners were put
21.
up by our maintenance department.
put up by the
Yes.
maintenance
Yeah.
department. And pride flag for the month of June in the townhouse for the month as was done in June of 2021. So move to adopt the resolution with those components to get started.
seconded.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have a question. I just, a resident just volunteered to donate all their tables to the event to save some money, so.
We're not in the money part, so we can bring that up. We just
I
got.
know,
the-
I'm just saying, someone just volunteered to tables. Do you know how many tables you need? Because they're catering tables.
Spreadsheet right now.
Okay, well, just so we have
Yeah,
that.
and that-
you-
See what I mean?
It's-
There's
yeah.
lots of ways to come up with.
we have this vote on the table, so what's your,
Yes.
yes, okay, so we got 5-0
Yeah,
on
we
that
got,
one.
we got.
Yeah, so it's the 3 out of the 4, right?
Right, so we got
We
5-0
haven't
on
gotten
that
to the
one.
funding yet.
Wait for the same. I mean, I would move nevertheless, if this is going to be in the scale it is, there will be funds needed. And again, I view this as kind of, another strong expression of support. And I would move that we allocate a budget of $1,000 to help defray expenses for the event.
Is there a fund me or something, if I want to give money or anybody in the
There's a
community, is there one
Yes.
set?
So right now, the organization already has not good with this, but I think some social media things, and on the social media is links to the Venmo and other ways to donate to the.
Because that's not, I'd like for that to be communicated, maybe on that front that.
Well, we will.
Tony-
We weren't sure what any of the
Oh,
rules.
no,
were.
I mean, right, no, I know. So we got one piece.
We
We
will.
will that part down.
There-
So on a going forward basis, as far as the financial component, whatever we do here, if you get that information to Tony, that can go out in Tony's weekly email blast, I guess. So we can have that as
They
any
haven't been
kind.
weekly, but that was the
Well-
intention.
So you have,
It
so
can
a link for
also-
funding
It can
opportunities.
also
But
go
the
out
town's
in the
community.
Parks and Recs
The Parks and
email
Rec
as well.
email, the town's community email blast that goes out every week.
But I made a
Thanks to
motion
Jen.
there. Can we just?
Second,
Okay, second. Any more discussion?
Discussion
Yes, just further
for the
discussion.
$1,000.
Hmm? Well, here's the thing, it's up to $1,000 for the cost of the tables or up to
For
$1,000 in
expenses
general.
associated with the
Okay.
event, because it's gonna develop and there'll be
I
needs.
understand that, but now we also have a difference between this event and the one we were discussing before, and that we have a task force
Fundraising.
that was by resolution. So now also, I would think the town could also take donations on behalf of the event and put it, if people write in the contribution line that they can make contributions to the town to help support the event or events, plural, because we have two, right,
Correct.
for the month of June. And it, so people can donate throughout the year. And of course, we have to check with Leo on this, but people could donate throughout the year so that there's money to give towards the event or events plural as we get closer in time to budget season or to other events we talked about, perhaps events in October, didn't we, Rachel? You said something about
History Month.
yes. And this is their job. So then, people can donate all along. And we talked about this yesterday, being proactive, looking forward in planning. And every year, I'm sure, some things will make a mistake and we can do better and not. So, looking forward, this would be a good way of planning for next year by starting down this road and coming up with ways that people can contribute. Because I've said it again and again, this town really runs on the back of our volunteers and people who are willing to chip in. And this gives an added opportunity. Not only does it help the town to help fund these events, it helps you guys organize and run the events.
Well, also the adoption of that we have the task force in place, which is great. In other words, during the calendar year, having an educational component and an outreach component and a mental health component, all the things that could be done over the course of the year to have broad-based support in the community so the whole community understands the important components of what the task force is going to do and be an integral part of the community going forward. I think that's great.
So we look forward to expanding our role. Absolutely.
Okay, so discussion done or not?
If you'd like me as a liaison, I'll volunteer.
Thank you, Mary. That's
Thanks, Mary.
tremendous. Can we hold the vote now?
Yes.
On Dan's motion.
I know.
On my
Okay.
motion, yes,
The motion was $1,000.
$1,000.
Okay.
Yes. For expenses.
Do I have a second?
Yes, you do.
You had that already.
Oh, we have that already. Okay, sorry. So discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm still a no for the same reasons.
But I want to
I'm
write
gonna
you,
work.
I'm going to write you a check to support
Me
it I promise. And I will be there to support.
Thank you all very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great. I think we're done with that. Let's see. All right, next. The next one, I'm going to, Michael's been patiently waiting, so I'm gonna jump ahead. This is a new addition that was not on the agenda, but it's for Baccio. And basically, it's we had a discussion at the last work session about permitting them to rezone property they're purchasing to be used for parking. Now, we're not going to make a decision on that, but what we can do tonight is refer it to the planning board for their input. So
That's what we're obligated to do next step, correct?
That's a mandate before we do anything.
Okay.
right.
Move to throw this to the planning board for their consideration.
So thrown.
Seconded.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Now, can we also set the public hearing? You and I spoke just in parallel,
You can set a public hearing.
Set a public
You'll
hearing
have
so
to
that
have
it's-
one if you're considering it.
yes.
Well, I think we should wait to hear
We should
back
wait,
to get
yeah,
a
we should
referral back
wait.
from planning board.
Yeah, but their meeting, hold on a second, I had a note here. Hold on.
Well, they meet tomorrow, don't they?
No, they met last week.
Last week,
They met last week.
last
So,
Tuesday.
so they have a meeting May 17th. A week later is our town board meeting. So my recommendation is that we set a public hearing for the May 23rd town board meeting. So hopefully by then we get the feedback from the planning board and we can vote on it and hold a public hearing.
Well, how much lead time we need for the public hearing? We need 10
10
days.
10 days, 2 weeks, 10 days, yeah, yeah. So if you set it now,
You'd have enough time.
you have enough time.
That's not.
I mean,
But what if one meeting isn't enough for the planning board to fully
Well, then-
determine?
no, we can postpone it.
Well, then we could just
Fine.
hold the
We can-
hearing
we can
over for
adjourn.
another day.
You can just adjourn it before you have it, if you don't
Yeah.
have the planning board's determination.
I just didn't want to wait till the May 23rd town board meeting to then set a public hearing for 2 weeks later. I'm assuming
Well, why
Mike will be
can't we
appreciative
just-
of that.
Well, we could get the feedback from planning board, then you could just add it to the agenda, right? We're good there, right? If we hear back.
Yeah, we'll add it to the agenda, but at least we'll have the public hearing already
Zoning.
set.
No, I think that's fine, because that way this can be properly noticed and everything, and if we're
Yeah.
able to go ahead, we can, and if not, then we can adjourn it, but at least it's been
Right.
properly noticed.
Right. Does it need to go to zoning for feedback? I mean, it's
We don't know yet.
I thought that's what he said we were referring to.
planning board, planning board.
It goes to planning first.
Oh, planning first.
This is my throw
Well,
motion.
the- because they want to change the zoning, so it's gotta
Zoning.
go.
So just to confirm with
planning
council,
first.
so it's going to go to planning. Does it need to go to zoning? Does not, thank you.
It's not an appeal.
It's not an appeal, right, right.
It's only after the planning board says,
Gotcha.
If the planning board says no and we say no, then they.
then they go to the.
Correct.
Yep.
Right, okay. So we're gonna refer this to the planning board. We've already voted on that. And we're setting a public hearing for May 23rd. Oh,
So moved.
motion to hold a public hearing on May 23rd
I just moved.
after,
I just
Moved.
but I
moved.
didn't make the motion. Okay, so,
Larry made the motion,
oh, okay. Okay, second,
second.
oh,
Andrea.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
So done with that, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so back to the resolution to approve AMG Waste Services application for license to collect and dispose of refuse and recyclables.
I'll move,
The new Carter.
yeah.
Yeah,
Never heard of it. So it's,
second,
yeah, Jennifer is all, they're all checked out.
They are.
They're
He's
like-
been in the business.
Okay.
Certificates of insurance are attached and all.
Yep.
yep,
And they're clearly labeled.
Right now. So
do I have a second?
Second. Right, did you second?
Discussion, she motion, you second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have the cooperative use agreement with Downstate Juniors VBC, that's the volleyball folks for the usage of the town park volleyball courts. We discussed this a couple of board meetings ago, and one of the questions was regarding the amount of days they would be using the volleyball courts, and it was 28 days. Question was to compare with the prior agreement. We couldn't find the prior agreement. So the belief was that it was less than 28, it was maybe 22.
What days during the week? Is it just weekends? Is it
It's
at night?
in the, hold on a second. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? Yeah,
does that create a,
6 PM to 9 PM, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from May 9th.
And they're
for May 9th.
paying?
And they are paying
What's not to
$100
like?
per session,
Leave
so
it, I
it's,
scored it now.
yeah. And it's
Oh.
$2,800. So there's the money that went away and now it's coming back. No. So, are there any questions about this or any concerns from the board?
Nope.
so
Okay.
moved.
I'll second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I have one other new item, and this is, we had received two bids for the removal of the wood debris from the salt dome. One bid, they missed the pre-bid meeting, so it's invalid or not acceptable. And the other one, they didn't comply with the insurance requirements. So
We're over 2.
we're 0 for 2. So for now, we're going to reject these bids.
Put it out again.
I'll have to talk to Highway about that. But I think that, yeah, we could possibly do that. Do we need to vote on that now if we're gonna put it out to bid again, or?
You would need to ultimately vote on if you're going to advertise it again.
Yeah,
You need to take the step of rejecting
right,
the ones you have.
okay,
You can do that and split it if you want to put it out another time later, or you can do it together.
Yeah,
So we just do that. We need the official motion to reject.
I would say
now?
reject it, yeah. And then we-
With that face, of course.
Yes.
So
Motion to
motion-
reject the two non-copacetic bids that we.
Non-conforming.
Non-conforming.
Thank you.
bids.
That's the technical term.
And,
Do I have
You
a
can't
second?
go riffing on that.
Do I have a second
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Can I make a motion to put it out again, subject to your conversation with highway?
With highway. Sure,
That way,
okay.
if everything goes well, then you can just do it and you'll have our
Do you want me
vote. We don't have to wait.
You don't have to wait another 2 weeks.
Correct.
I second that motion.
Mary
Get my-
likes that
Okay.
idea.
my highway hat back on.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Good, good motion, okay. All right, so next we have
Approval of
the
claims.
announcement.
You forgot approval of claims.
Where's that? Oh, that's down there, yeah, approval, oh,
None.
sorry. Yeah, reading through my scribble notes. Approval of claims. Oh, that's next. Oh, sorry, public, okay, sorry, I'm going out of order, I'm sorry. Public comment too. Go ahead, I'm sorry. We'll start with the folks here.
Sorry.
No worries. Don't apologize.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Tammy Jacob Shulman, and I'm Lewisboro's appointed representative for the Drug and Alcohol Prevention Council. I was
Nice to meet
appointed, I was appointed by Peter Parsons, and the position was held, supposed to be for 3 different parties. So I'm the one person who's filling the position. We had one other one. So Andrea, I don't know if you were able to pass out what I sent you on email for the last 3 years of our programming.
Not yet.
They haven't seen that.
No.
So I think it's relevant. If you don't mind, I'm gonna give to you guys right now so you could see just a little bit, because when I hear that you all are unaware of the programming, there's been a lot of programming going on. And so if you see it, I think it'll change your mind. So I'm just going to, if you don't mind, just pass out this to you, if you guys don't mind here. I just have. so
Yeah, we
you
can share.
I'm sorry.
Give that.
Because I just have here 2019,
Yeah.
20, and 21. So-
Tammy, I apologize because we were planning on asking you to come and do a presentation at a time where it was on the agenda, so I didn't pass it out in anticipation of us having a conversation before the next time.
Okay,
Well,
that's fine.
I
That's
apologize.
fine.
But,
No,
but I have seen this. I've seen this document.
Have
I
you
think
seen all
And I
the
saw the
years?
programming. Well, I saw the programming when I first got involved, I think with you, when I initially started the discussion.
I just
I saw-
got
yeah.
over the programming
Okay.
just
This is
about a
from-
week ago.
Uh-huh,
So this is showing you 2019, 20, and 21.
correct.
And
right.
what I really need, and Andrew, that's totally
And-
fine. I
And just
understand.
to confirm, the Republic comment, you have 3 minutes.
It's 1. Oh,
So let's start, yeah, let's start the
Start
sheet,
again?
start over, yeah.
thank you. So anyway, so a lot has gone on with programming. We have, for the year, we have some programs that have already gone on. Most of our stuff, because it is COVID, have been on webinars. And webinars are great for a lot of reasons. There's anonymity for people who don't want people to see that they're there. They can still get the help for their child and for themselves and get great skills. As far as money goes, Lewisboro has given in the past years, they've given $6,500. And about, I think somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago, it used to be 13,000. And because Lewisboro had run into some hardship, they reduced it to the 6,500. As it is right now, Bedford pays $29,000 toward the DAPC, and Pound Ridge, I believe, pays $13,000. So all the programs are shared with the town of Lewisboro. They have the same access. And when we bring a speaker in to, let's say, Fox Lane, we bring a speaker in to John Jay High School. So in COVID started in March of 2020. In 2019, we lost our student assistance counselor, and they did not replace it, which is very hard. So we've had nobody in the high school who's willing to take on the programming, which we've had. Fox Lane has student assistant counselors, but we've lost ours. They didn't replace it. And the problem is there are people there who don't want to pick up the slack. They feel that overworked already. So anyway, the program has actually really been good. And the DAPC right now, I just want to let you know, is currently restructuring. So our head person, our coordinator retired. However, while the restructuring is going on, and I'll be happy to share with you, we have programs continuing all the way through May. So it's not like nothing is happening. And I feel terrible that you guys don't realize that there's been a lot of happening, but they have. And because just like everybody else not going to work, we had to stop and do it a different way and do it by webinars. And we're open to any suggestions, and we want to be there for the community. And Lewisboro also doesn't have a great place as far as when you have masses come to sit somewhere. That's why we've had to use the Bedford Playhouse before. And with the high school before COVID, we have a lot of programs going on at the high school. And sometimes we do use other places if we don't have a place to fit a large group of people. But by all means, Lewisboro is getting a very generous portion. They don't, Bedford, we don't decide that Lewisboro only gives this amount. We do it equally across the board to try to make programming available for everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Tammy.
So just in response, a big part, my understanding is a big part of how word of the programs got out was at the high school and at the middle school. And we lost our liaisons there and no one to pick up the slack. So as a result, none of the information has been distributed in any manner, shape, or form. And I believe Tammy's hit some roadblocks in obtaining the appropriate permissions to do that. And I think what Tony and I had discussed was reaching out to the school district and to the superintendent and try to set up a meeting so we could better understand why it is that this information is not being disseminated at the high school. And
But
middle school.
correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, but we were still getting information from you and sending it out via our community email blast.
You were what? I'm sorry.
We were getting information from you on the programs and sending it out via our community email.
Well, we haven't up to this point.
Yeah.
We want to. I just recently sent it to you.
Yeah.
And I think we spoke about perhaps even the library, even
Right.
sending out an e-blast, which
Yeah.
would be terrific for
Okay.
people who don't have kids in school
Right.
anymore.
Okay,
So yes, that would be.
so we'll do that. Mary?
Kevin Ferrara, who was the coordinator. Kevin did contact the town, so we did send things out to the town. I had communication with Catherine Ferrara at the ABC. So we did have information coming to the town, not the school, but just to the town. So we did.
Oh,
We did
okay. So I
disseminate,
didn't
yes.
know that. So
Okay.
thank you. And I'm sorry, I don't know who you
I'm
are.
Mary Hampshire, I work for Tony.
Oh, now I do. Okay. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, next.
Hi, I'm Sally Corbett Turco, and I too want to encourage you to continue your support of the DAPC. We've had a pandemic within the pandemic. Let's just face it, mental health and addiction issues on the rise. And anything that can be done in the community is needed because the schools, their mental health professionals, if they have them, are completely overwhelmed. And soon you'll have a neighboring town with pot dispensaries. This is not a time to go light on programming. The types of programming that we've had that I know you have the list, but for those watching on TV or whatever in the room, topics included young people in recovery, telling their stories, anxiety in adolescence, suicide, parenting in a pandemic world, screen and gaming addiction, self-esteem for teenagers, social media and bullying. These are the sorts of things we need to have out in the community. We too are in the business of suicide prevention, and we should have a table at your Pride event. So we hope you'll continue supporting the efforts of the DAPC. We are at an inflection point where when we restructure, we think we'll have a stronger voice in the community. We want more people involved. And hope that one of you might start to attend all of our meetings. We've had 2 town board members from Bedford attending the meetings. Thank you.
About the conversation that you were having before, Andrea, you're obviously right that you need to have some criteria set on who will get town funds and not for various events. It can't be completely arbitrary and people will complain and do all their thing. But it doesn't seem to me that general criteria to make those is a very difficult thing to actually do that can't be done in a few weeks or months. To create at least general criteria, people are still going to have their arguments about it, but at least it's not going to be completely arbitrary and they're not going to blame you. You can say, here are the criteria. We don't think you met it. That's obviously what you need, but it's not something that seems to me is insurmountable in any small period of time. But the other thing was what Dan said, and it's that I've lived in Lewisboro out of the city up here now for about 34 years. And we do need a town board that represents who we are, that makes a commitment to, and I don't mean just makes an ethical, moral commitment to on certain issues. A little while ago, Rick was talking about, the Nazi symbol in the school and what that meant and what we needed to take a stand on that. And he was absolutely right. But there are other issues too that we want you to take a stand for us. The town needs people who we recognize are standing up for us. And I don't mean just our money or our taxes, but us, who we are. And unfortunately, money is one way of doing that. And $1,000 may not be a lot. And frankly, for some of us, it's not. But at least it's the town putting its foot forward and saying, we're taking a stand on this issue. And, in a country that is people are taking stands all over the place, we need to take stands here. And the ones that you were talking about, the gay rights, the Juneteenth, those are important issues to a lot of us. And we need to know that our town is there and really and considers them serious. And it's not just about money to us. It's more than that for us. And frankly, $1,000 is as little as we can do as a town to support those. But at least it's making a step. It's saying, this is where we stand on this issue. And we need to do that, all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
How are we doing online?
Let's see. So anybody else here? Make a comment? Nope. Okay, so we have Carol Cernak. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, it's Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York. I know I spoke about this earlier at the first public comment period, and I appreciate your addressing the RFP status, but would also appreciate an update on the status of the reparation of the sight line between the cemetery and the Salt Dome site. There has been a lot of activity there. As you know, I have a bird's eye view, but especially the lower corner and the old part of the cemetery, that doesn't seem to get much attention. People are probably, buried there for a couple hundred years, but deserves the same respect as the more recently buried at the higher elevation. And also, can you please speak to the status on Hickory Homes removing the mulch pile from the Salt Dome site? Thank you.
Okay,
Is there any?
thank you, Carol. Next, Simone, asking you to unmute.
Good evening. I wanted to thank Andrea for being the voice of reason, which is becoming more commonplace. Mary, I just wanted to say I understand that these are important events. I quite frankly don't know anyone who doesn't believe in supporting Juneteenth or Pride. But I also support the veterans, and Rich brought that up. And I remember, Tony, I don't know if you recall, you asked for $1,000 and you were on the board and they told you no. And then I was told we were raising money. I donated and we supported the veterans, which I would happily do for these two events as well. And I think that sends a message that we support the people who actually gave us the right to have these events that come out of people losing their lives on behalf of freedom and freedom of speech. Without our veterans, I really believe we wouldn't be anywhere. So I'm very proud to be the daughter of a veteran and in a family of a lot of veterans. Tonight, I feel like a precedent was set that's not clear or concise. And I feel that the board has a fiduciary duty to us little people, the actual people who pay these bills. And Dan, I find your comments flippant and offensive, not a surprise, talking about the fee coming to about 25 cents a family, which I find quite comical and ironic coming from you, big spender. The point you missed, Dan, that Andrea had to keep making because you just didn't care to listen to it, is that we need a fair policy in place for every organization. What you did tonight as a board, with the exception of Andrea and Rich, is you created a mess. It's not about the events. Again, I do not personally know one person that doesn't support Pride or Juneteenth. But now we have no structured, clear policy going forward. And I think that that's going to be a problem. And I think we're going to see it in the months to come. I think it's that important. And I'm very sad at the failure to make a policy supporting all of our events and spending our money, quite frankly, where gas is up, food is up, people are suffering. And being so flippant about spending our money is really something that should have been given more thought. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Simone. Letitia Stapleton. Asking you to unmute.
Okay. Hi, I just wanted to thank, sorry, I'm hoarse. I can't hardly talk. I just wanted to thank everyone in support of Juneteenth. And even though it just passed here, it became a national holiday. And I'm more than sure you will have a good time. We will have so much fun, and we're all going to come together and enjoy one another. And that's all I'm aiming for, is for us to have a good time and enjoy freedom. Even though the 4th of July is getting over $30,000, I figured a little $2,000-3,000 or whatever you can donate would be helpful. I know this was brought up from last year with me, Cynthia, and Dawn did it ourselves. I don't have a problem with that, but I do want to have a good time. And I'm pretty sure last year we had a great time, and we will have another good time this year. So I'm grateful, and I cannot wait for us to get together. Thank you for supporting.
Thank you, Letitia.
Feel better, Letitia.
Okay, that's said. Anybody else? I don't see any more hands up on Zoom. Okay, motion to close the public comment. Second. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Motion to approve claims.
So moved.
Discussion,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the next town board meeting is on Monday, May 9th, 2022 at 7:30 PM here at the townhouse. Yes, polling of the board. Sorry, I skipped that. It's my notes scribbled all over the place. Okay, I'm sorry. Mary, we'll start with you.
Can we start the other end, please?
Andrew, we'll start with you.
Opening day. LBA's opening day is this Saturday, April 30th. Events starting at 11 a.m. Please come down and see what the LBA has done to the baseball field and Parks and Rec. They spruced it up. They've done some landscaping. They fixed the fields. There's new dugouts, and they're dedicating the field. There's going to be a barbecue, and the entire community is welcome to come and watch the throwing out of the first baseball and the first baseball game, which I believe the first baseball game starts at 1. But the events start at 11 a.m. and the dedication, all of that. So asking everybody to show up and support our youth baseball.
Dan.
Hope everybody had a good Earth Day, and just remind you all that the food scrap recycling and composting initiative is now launched, and thanks to Tony and the committee members, sustainability committee members, and especially Jessica, for all the work done on that, and people are interested in participating in that. I believe we have a couple of kits here. Otherwise, you can email sustainability@lewisboro.gov.com with any questions about the program. But the drop-off is right back here in the parking lot. It's very convenient, easy to get started with.
And Jessica sold 40 kits this weekend.
40.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
That's
pretty good.
amazing. That's a very popular program.
I would
Rich.
like to see one where, hopefully in the future, where it's internal to the town and people can come and take advantage of the soil that's created and all of that for their gardens, something to strive for.
Actually, just today, there was a discussion about that with Bob Fishman. He's got somebody that may be interested in doing that here in town.
Beautiful.
But we got to give him space to do it.
It's going to be an
Yeah.
evolving program for
Yeah.
sure. This is just kind of the first start, and it gets people sensitized to actually separating out the organics. And then there's going to be different permutations for sure as we go forward.
Right.
Good evening. First, wanted just to give a shout out to GBHO, the Fairmount Pocket Park project, say that 3 times fast, is underway with the clearing of the site on Saturday. Lots of volunteers were there. I was conceitedly came in the 8th inning to help with some relief, but
Did show up a little late.
Yes. But there's a tremendous amount of work done, and being a 24-year resident of Wild Oaks, it's great to see that project underway in a tangible way and as part of the Earth Day celebration. A lot of great volunteers and neighbors coming together, and everybody seemed to have a fairly enjoyable time there. And just to second what Andrew was talking about for LBA opening day, please make sure you come out. LCTV Channel 20 will be covering that, and somebody I know very closely will be part of the mic on that event for Saturday. So come on out and join the community. Another great institution in our community, LBA baseball, I think for over 50 years, and get to see the Butte donation, and I've seen the pictures with the new dugouts being put in, and
Gorgeous.
yeah, so that's amazing. Just having Lewisboro baseball getting ready for the next generation and for decades to come, which is great. So come out and enjoy.
And again, the volunteers have been incredible. They re-landscaped and they painted the wall. They did so much, and they've spent hours and hours there getting ready for opening day. So thank you.
It's my turn. Thank you for putting up with my absence 2 weeks ago. COVID is real and it's painful. And even if you're vaccinated and boosted, it's not pleasant. So everybody get boosted. It's the end of Autism Awareness Month. Patches are available to support our local people with autism for $20 a piece. You can get it from the town clerk's office. It's $20 cash, and that money goes towards supporting the people with autism here. Also coming up next month is NAMI Westchester is the local affiliate of the National Alliance for Mental Health. And next month will be Mental Health Awareness. So reach out to me if you'd like to get a sign or a ribbon to raise awareness for mental health issues for people. And I'm sure I've forgotten 5 other things, but you know where to find me.
Good to have you back.
Thank you,
Mary.
Mary.
Yeah,
Welcome back.
I also want to speak out as a granddaughter of a veteran. I also support veterans, and veterans are a strong part of our community, and they are in every facet of our life, and we would not be here without them. So I'm expressing my gratitude for their fight for our freedom.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, I have a few things just to add to the autism thing. Yeah, the Lewisboro Police Department, I'd like to thank them for having a autism awareness event on Saturday at the Lewisboro Elementary School parking lot. It was a great turnout. Those patches were being sold there as well, and they're available here at the town clerk's office for $20. And I see Rich is about to buy one.
Can you mention bricks for the playground too?
Oh, bricks for the playground are still being sold until
May 1, I
May
think.
1st.
May 1st, right? So they're still
Don't be
available.
left out.
So what, is there a site they go to? I forget, I already ordered my. brick,
Yeah,
right?
it's on their website and on, I think there's a link
It might be
in
in-
their Instagram page, and there's a link on their Facebook page,
Yeah.
and you can go and buy a brick.
Right,
I'll call up Valerie. She'll help you.
right.
I know, I
So
bought
thanks
my
for that.
brick.
Yeah. The South Salem Fire Department and Lewisboro Volunteer Ambulance Corps are holding their blood drive on Thursday, April 28th, 2 to 8 p.m. at the South Salem Fire Department. So we're looking to make this a record year for blood donations here at the South Salem Fire Department. So love to see a lot of Lewisboro residents come out. Roadside Cleanup. Yeah, I've noticed the orange bags around town. Thanks to the Lions and the town of Lewisboro for sponsoring the Roadside Cleanup. It's a great event for people to get together and clean their own part of town. And I saw a lot of that over the weekend, including at the Pocket Park that Rich mentioned. That was a great event. In terms of the salt dome, Carol had asked a couple of questions. So the mulch status, Carol, I don't have an update on that. I know it's underway. I don't know how much longer to clear that mulch pile, but we're certainly keeping an eye on it. And it is much lower than, at a much lower level than it used to be. The cemetery sideline reparation work, yes, that is on my list, so that will get done. And we've had some preliminary discussions on how to do it, so it will be done. And I will provide an update on the status of that. Holocaust Remembrance Day is April 28th. So I'd like to just make everyone aware of that. It's obviously something that we never want to see happen again. So please do what you can to learn more about the event, learn how to, of course, never forget what happened. And unfortunately, we're seeing some of that happening today in the Ukraine, which is, very surprising that we're still seeing that. But yes, don't forget Holocaust Remembrance Day, April 28th. Just regarding the veterans, I know Simone had a comment about we refused to give them $1,000. The request from the veterans was not for $1,000; it was for a flagpole. And I mentioned it, so I'll mention it again, just so it's clear. They did ask for a flagpole. We offered the one that was at the Golden Bridge Community House, but then it was determined to be less expensive to get a new one. And there was enough volunteers already willing to, or donors willing to provide for that. So we did that. But we do support the veterans. I was there today at their social event that we're kicking off thanks to John Lemke and the Lions Club. Lions Club paid for the food, the appetizers, and that were provided. So it was a good turnout of veterans and folks who work with veterans on various veterans programs. I was there just before the town board meeting. And so the town does support them. So we do provide manpower for putting up the banners and any other work that they want to do. We're there to support them in every way possible. So I just want to make that perfectly clear that we're very, we appreciate all that they've done in their sacrifices. So we'll continue to support them as much as possible. And yeah, the event funding, both for the Pride and the Juneteenth. I mean, I think we did the right thing. I mean, it's something that it shows where we are. I think to Robert's comments, it shows where as a town, we're looking to support these events. Yes, there wasn't allocated funds in the 2022 budget for it, but I'm sure we'll scrape up out of existing unspent money lines that we have. And then for the 2023 budget, we'll need to figure it out. And that's where we'll have a more detailed discussion on how to move forward with this, and those discussions will occur towards the latter part of the year, in the October timeframe. So that's all I have. So now, next meeting is Monday, May 9th, 7:30 PM here at the Townhouse. Motion to go into executive session to discuss, actually for an interview for a committee, and to discuss an insurance, retiree insurance issue. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
I-
Aye. Thank you all very much for coming out, and thanks to everyone on Zoom.